Welcome to the Wednesday weekly team prosperity meeting. This week, we're going to go into selling through emotion, why that's an important part of the learning process as an educator. Talk a little bit about that. We're getting into, late part of March here. So you have to understand what you're doing constantly every day is you're weaving a web of information. You're weaving a web of, valuable information on the front side that's leading to engaging communication with some people, locating the appropriate parties, bringing them into things like, the meetings, whether it be GPS 1, GPS 2, whatever it is that you're doing, understand that everything has a part and everything has a meaning in your business. And once you understand how to put that together and how to weave that web, it's just all about taking people through pipelines and cycles of communications and action steps. We're in week 8 of the 12-week year. The only reason I continue to bring this up each week is because if you're not participating, you need to understand the framework of the 12-week year, because when you look at the 12-week year, those annual goals that we set for ourselves that we never make, that we continue to push off and then start freaking out about in like October, those should be broken down into quarterly goals. And those quarterly goals should be broken down into activities that you need to do weekly, daily. And then from that, you understand the value of the moment that you're in, how to perform in that moment, how to get more done than other people do, how to be, accountable, how to measure, all of those things. This is a framework for professional as well as personal growth. So I highly recommend you guys adapt the 12-week year into your life. Another part of what we do and what makes us, kind of the make or break for the week is how do we prepare? Remember, preparation is the key to victory. So what are we doing on Sunday? Sunday should be a prep day. What went right for the week? What went wrong for the week? What am I trying to get accomplished? What are those obstacles that I need to stay away from this week? What are my teammates trying to get accomplished? How am I supposed to push them down the pathway to where they're trying to get to? Sunday is the prep day. If you use it correctly, you can set yourself up for a great week. If you don't bother to ever do this, the week's going to suffer. A lot of us, in this tight labor market, we are looking for the right person to hire. And you need to understand when you're looking for the right person to hire, you need to understand who that is. Who's the persona? Who's the outline of that person? And then you need to start, like we've been talking about, with being that person on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis that you want to hire. Setting the example, even if it's just you, setting the example for what's going to come. You understand how to go out and talk to people by being the person that you want to hire. So that's very, very, very important. If you're sitting back, just not being proactive, being reactive, just waiting for things to happen, your business is going to suffer. And that really comes back to helping people understand, what you do. You cannot be a secret agent. In other words, you can't just sit back and send some cold emails and expect things to happen without getting out, without getting used to talking about your business, whether that's the partner or the client side of your business. You need to help people understand as you're communicating with them, who you are, what you're doing, but most importantly, why you're doing it. If you're struggling with front-end communication, you have to understand that you have to have a framework. Just not having a script, not having any structure, just going into random conversations with indirect communication that's just random, it's not going to get you anywhere. So I'm not going to go through the top of this because you can kind of understand how you want to organize who you are, what you're representing. But typically, when you're talking to people, you want to get them agreeing or disagreeing so you can disqualify or qualify. So are our clients right now frustrated by challenge 1 could be inflation, struggling with challenge 2, getting enough retirement savings, or finally just worried about the state of the stock market, the state of the world, whatever it might be? Do any of these issues ring true to you? So you're kind of putting people into buckets on the front side so you can understand if any of these issues ring true to you, you're probably, in line with other people I talk to that I help. If they don't, you're probably not in line. So you're always qualifying, or more importantly, disqualifying on the front side so that the time that you spend with people is going to be the right persona. So you're going to get a return out of that time investment, because if you're just working with everybody on everything, you're not going to have, the kind of success that you're looking for. Last week, you guys, we talked about, taking those stair steps from good, better to a best business model, which are the business keys to success. As an entrepreneur, constantly in the process of learning and building, dealing with frustration, learning how to effectively communicate, understanding your mission, concentrating on what's most important at that particular time, being on point with intention, evaluating progress, capitalizing on shifts in the marketplace, focusing on solutions, and painting the picture of what can be, as well as staying accountable. Remember, these are always in the YouTube channel, always in the Facebook group, and always labeled accordingly so that your partners know what that meeting was about. So this week, we're going to talk about, very to the point, very quickly, selling through emotions, because there's a process, and we're going to go through that. If you neglect to understand the importance of what we're talking about today, you're not going to be able to make that connection for the prospect, and that connection has to be there if you want to sell products and services. We call it an educator role, but let's not get it twisted. Education also means sales. If you're just out there educating, you're not, being paid to teach here. The education has to lead to buying decision, it has to lead to sales, it has to lead to revenue and income recognition, because if not, it's going to teach people all day, never make any sales. You go broke, right? You'll have to quit. So you need to understand that, yes, we are educated on the front side, but there's an element of sales. And if you don't blend that element of sales in, you're going to be in trouble. When you are presenting that presentation, whether it be a first meeting, a second meeting, whatever it might be, you have to understand what's happening there. And you have to understand there's a learning process to mastering this presentation. And once you understand the process and you master the process, your income and your revenue starts to shoot up, exponentially, versus you coming in and really not having any clue about how to get through this. Because if you don't have any clue on the front side about how to get through the information, can't make those emotional connections. So when you look at the learning process, it's pretty simple. We posted this in the Facebook group the other day. It's a 4-step process. It's information. So the information that you're giving out to the other side, do you understand it in a way that you can present it in a clear, concise, articulate way that makes sense to the other side? Once you're able to understand the information, relay that back. The next thing is the transitions. So you don't want your presentation to be choppy. All of those are not transition words. Those are just basically noises that we make because we're not sure what to say as the next part of the presentation comes up. So information is important. Transitions, how to piece it together in a way that doesn't sound choppy. It's got a nice flow to it. Once you've mastered those two things, it's all about understanding the reasons that somebody would take the next action steps, the reason somebody would buy your products and services, because the reason is the most important part. Once you can connect, why they would buy the product and service, where that's going to get them to either now or at a future date, you're able to close. If you neglect understanding the reasons, the emotional attachment, the motivating factor, the pain point, whatever it is that you want to call it, you're not going to be able to close many sales. And you're going to have a lot of people say, hey, let me think about it, not interested, ghost you, whatever it might happen. And when you start to see that happen in your business model, you need to understand the reason. And the reason is you haven't understood the client's reasons yet. A lot of what we talk about, opening people's eyes, opening people's mind, replacing incorrect with correct information, it's all pretty easy because you're doing something, you're providing value. It's constant. You're doing the same thing over and over and over again. This part of the process, pretty easy to master. Another part of the process it's pretty easy to talk to people about is helping them kind of reverse their thinking in terms of, Mr. or Mrs. Prospect. It's not what you do for your job, not what you do for your paycheck. It's most important about when you get that paycheck, what you do with it. That's value, that's additional information, that's education, that part's pretty easy right there. Where it becomes more unclear and not defined is the information you master and you kind of, understand the transitions, you do that, but everybody that you speak to is going to be a unique individual. So what that means is that if you're not connecting, like I said, the emotional attachment, the motivating factor, the pain point, you're going to wonder how and why you're getting through so many presentations with an ultra low closing rate. And the reason is you haven't identified, like we said, the reason. the emotional attachment. You know, people are coming in, they're confused. They get a lot of different information from different places. They don't know what to do. You know, they've been the captain of their ship for a while and it's basically like going nowhere. So what you need to understand is you are creating an endpoint, a desired endpoint with an emotional attachment, and then you're creating a defined path. You're cutting through all the noise, cutting through all the obstacles and roadblocks, and giving them a defined approach, a clear path to whatever they're trying to get to or avoid getting to. Along the way, you have to make sure that your prospects, your potential clients, they feel through this process that you've empowered them. You want them to feel good about the education they received, the information they got, you know, where they're going. You know, you want them to feel good about the buying decision, the purchase of the product. All these things are designed to make your client feel like, hey, I'm in a #1 position. This was a great move for me. Excited about the product, excited about the future, excited about the relationship with you as an advisor. And that makes this a whole lot more exciting for you, because if you're helping people and they're excited and you're making money and you're excited, this whole process becomes a lot more fun and a lot easier to, in terms of build on the momentum. If things are going correctly, we always say, hey, build on that momentum. If things aren't going correct, reset. But in this case, if things are going correct, you just build on that momentum, and like a snowball pushing it around gets bigger and bigger and bigger, because that confidence that you get from helping someone out is just going to continue to grow as well. The other side of that is if you don't make those attachments to the reasons, if you can't sell through emotions, if you can't identify the pain points, the motivating factors, you can't connect all that together, you know, you're going to feel like beating your head against the computer constantly, because you're going to be wondering, why aren't these people buying? The numbers look good. What's the because you haven't done enough of a job on the front end to get to know them so that they feel that you can actually solve their problems. You guys are going to get what you negotiate constantly in life. It's no different being in an education and sales role. You need to understand when you're talking to people, it's basically a negotiation, mostly about their future, where they want to go. And you need to understand that you got to speak their language, not yours. So no one cares about, you know, your opinion at this point. No one cares about your goals and your motivating factors. It's all about the prospect. You speak their language, you talk about their goals, talk about what they want, leave yourself out of it for the most part. With that being said, you have to understand that emotions, even when we're going out with hard numbers, savings reports, all of these great presentations that identify down to specific details what's possible, data-driven decisions are going to be mixed with emotion. So you're creating a data-driven buying decision, but you also have to understand the other side, the client, coming in with a lot of emotion. So, you know, how do we, you know, deal with that? How do we overcome that? You have to understand that because we're feelings first creatures, those agents and those advisors that can find emotional opportunities in both their prospect and their client interaction, they stand to get the best results. And then secondarily, low emotional intelligence means trouble for your sales performance, because bottom line, people don't want to do business with other people they don't like. So if they don't like you, it doesn't matter how great the product or service is. They're not going to do business with you, because it's an ongoing relationship that we're trying to form. So understand these two things play big parts. So how do emotions affect sales? Well, emotional selling, what we're talking about, means arousing emotions in the prospects to persuade them into buying your product or service. Every decision that we make, you know, from the client and prospect side is going to be influenced by emotion. When you're facing a decision, feelings from past experiences will create bias in your choice. You know, we've had a lot of people over the past number of months come in, and one of the things that comes up is they bought into real estate services, whether it be flipping houses, whatever it is, spent a lot of money and got little to nothing out of it. So now they come into this seeing a product or service, and they're coming back with a bias from those past experiences. So understand that people come in, they're emotional creatures. They have bias. You have to be able to identify and overcome these objections. If you never pry in and understand the underlying reason why they're telling you whatever they're telling you, then it's just going to be kind of a shallow conversation. You've got to dig deep and figure out what's going on so you can help them walk through and talk through this stuff. Ultimately, you want them to be inspired to take action. And that means a number of things. Do they have confidence in the future? Are they perceiving the future better than the past? A lot of people, up to this point, things might not have gone too well, but you're giving them a clearly defined approach to a better future that has a positive mental picture of what's to come. That's a great emotional feeling for your prospect. What about a sense of well-being? Feel that life measures up to the expectations and that balance has been achieved. Are people feeling like they're just working all the time, making no headway, not really creating a retirement picture that's rosy for them? People seek a stress-free state without conflicts or threats. So the sense of well-being is an emotional trigger. What about protecting the environment? When I say that, it's protecting what we built, right? We have a house and we have all this stuff. We have a family, have an inner circle that we've invited into our life. We need to take action to improve those surroundings, protect those surroundings so that when we're not around, it's not a house of cards here. And then just being the person I want to be, that ongoing self-improvement, living up to their ideal self-image. So, for example, cash flow, debt is holding somebody back from being the person they want to be. That's their trigger. That's their emotional trigger point. You have to understand that. And then what about just feeling secure? Believe that, what they have today will be there tomorrow. They can go ahead and pursue outside goals and dreams without worry. Sense of security is a big emotional trigger. And then just succeed, come out on top, feel that they live meaningful lives, find worth that goes beyond financial or socio-economic measures. What are they trying to accomplish in life? They want to climb Mount Everest, but can't do it because they're working 60, 70 hours a week. You got to dig down deep. Everybody has wants, goals, dreams, desires. Find those, and then that's what's going to inspire them to take the action. So there's two categories and two schools of thoughts here. Number one is a negative approach, and that's far more commonly used by salespeople. It's essentially meaning that you're presenting your product as a cure or a prevention for the prospect's biggest pain. A lot of us use that in our communication. It's pretty common. However, on the opposite side of that is a positive approach. And that presents the product or the service as something that will cause good things to happen in the future. Oh, now we're starting to feel that emotional attachment to a future endpoint that I want to be at, right? That's an emotional trigger. It's the carrot versus the stick mentality. Most prospects are going to respond better to one of these approach or the other. So it's a good idea to probe early on and find out what type of prospect you have. Let me give you an example. The negative approach is somebody that, needs to retire in, 7 years, has 28 years left to pay off all their debts, including the mortgage. Well, now we've got a cure to the pain, right? Because we've got a defined timeline. On the other hand, you're talking to a younger person. Now you're painting the picture of what could happen in the future with arbitrage opportunities, with cash flow. So it's a different approach. You have to early on probe and find out which approach is going to be best. You don't want to insert the wrong approach into the situation. And then you got to know what questions to ask. So positive qualifying questions. Hey, where do you see yourself in a year or two? What do you hope to gain from this meeting? How long have you been thinking about whatever they said was the purpose of the meeting, that meeting gain? These questions touch on the client's positive emotions related to the product and give you some clues as to their expectations. Somebody has expectations and you can help them meet those expectations. Guess what? That's a mutually beneficial conversation, relationship. So you have to understand the things that you ask, the questions that you ask, and the things that you get back as far as the information and answers make a huge opportunity for you to take the conversation where you need to take it. When you find stuff that they're talking about that's important to them, pain points, motivating factors, please, yes, tell me more. Don't just skim over that. Somebody says, I'm worried about my retirement, having enough money, worried about this, that, or the other. I would like to do this. Hey, tell me more about that. Expand on that a little bit. The more information that you get from a prospect on things that are important to them helps you in a big way, because it's much easier to organize the conversation. Now you know what they want. Now you know what's important to them. Now you know what to talk about. Remember, guys, happy customers, those customers that are excited, they're going to spend more money. So ask yourself when you're, evaluating that client, what emotion will this product give this customer? And you do that and you get there by, identifying your customer's desired emotion. What are they trying to do, accomplish? What's that desired emotion? And then will this product give that customer, in the way that I presented it, that desired emotion? Now you have to be able to paint the picture of possibility. Remember, fear of missing out and, painting the picture of what's possible are two big emotional triggers. Tell a story. How have you, depending on what that client said to you or potential client, how have you been able to help someone like them? Tell a story, whether it's first person, whether it's secondary, a client that you've done, whether it's a story that you heard about inside our agency. It really doesn't matter. Tell a story, paint a picture, and finally close the sale. No one's going to buy a product or service from you just based on the education, the numbers. It's got to be a tie-in to what they're trying to do or what they're trying to avoid. At the end of the day, guys, it's very, very easy. Where is our client right now, our potential client? Where does our potential client want to be in a desired timeline? And how are we going to get there? How do we insert ourselves there as a person that can help them, advise them with the products and services to get them there? Remember, these are just the stepping stones to get there. Where we are now, where we want to be, how are we going to get there? What are we willing to do to get there? And how do we as advisors, as advisors with our products and services fit into that picture? What are you really selling here, guys? You're selling something, yes, products and services, but you're also selling to the client something they want. So is it affluence and status? Remember, people want to show off. It's just human nature. They want other people to see them, in new cars, new houses, new boats. That's called validation. Whatever it means to you, it's not important. It's what it means to the client. If it's that top priority status for them, we have to understand why they would be buying your product or service. Number two, reassurance. Peace of mind, guys, is priceless. When you can paint a picture that includes peace of mind, control, it's priceless. That's a power motivating factor. People want to have control over their lives. That's important. That's what you got to concentrate on. That's the reason they would be buying. Time, convenience. This plays into an individual's need for achievement. If your customer is a working professional, like a small business owner, busy parent, anyone else with extremely limited time or energy, the selling convenience is a piece of cake. So the product and service, if it provides ease, time, convenience, that's why they would be buying it. And then number four, pleasure. We all have this particular weak spot. We'll pay almost any amount of money to enjoy a little bit more pleasure in our lives. So if it means that we can quit working a few more years earlier, that we can spend time with our kids, our grandkids, if it means we can travel, whatever it is, that pleasure point is a huge motivating and emotional factor. And then finally, number five, personal empowerment. The whole self-improvement industry is one of the most lucrative industries of all time. Power is the main driver of motivation in this category. So people that are wanting to achieve more in life, do more in life, accumulate more assets, this is why they would be buying your product or service or working with you. So understand, yes, product and service is the same, but we also have to understand that the reason somebody would be buying our product or service, the reason somebody would be engaging into a business relationship with us is really one of these reasons. And then the buying motivation. So on the back of that, those emotions that make customers buy. Greed. Hey, if I make this decision now, I'm going to be rewarded. We look at those numbers. We look at the opportunity to convert debt to wealth. Big opportunity. Fear. Hey, if I don't make this decision now, I'm toast. Meaning that, hey, we always talk about you've been basically the captain of your own ship up until this point. Where are you sailing that ship? Remember, if they continue, because the fork in the road has been made, once we've educated, once we've shown them, hey, if I don't make this decision now, I'm toast. Altruism. Hey, if I make a decision now, I'm going to help others. Alana used this the other day. Some individual had a couple special needs kids. It's all about making sure that if that person's not there, what we're doing now to set up the future is a future where those kids are going to be taken care of. Envy. If I don't make a decision now, my competition will win. Whether you look at the competition as the bank or whether you look at the competition as maybe the Joneses next door, envy is an emotional factor. And then pride. Hey, if I make a decision now, I'm going to look smart, right? I'm going to look smart to my inner circle, to myself, whoever it is. That pride factor is a heavy emotion. And then finally, number 6, shame. If I don't make this decision now, I'm going to look stupid. And that's, in a matter of words, a lot of times that's what it boils down to. Hey, if you don't take this route, if you don't take this path, you're going to continue to do what you do. And then 3, 5, 7 years down the road, when I could have had you at X and you're over here at Y, you're going to feel pretty stupid. Once we've identified, that we can bring somebody on as a client or whoever it is that you're talking to about what product and service, and we've identified emotional triggers, we've identified motivating factors, pain points, it's all about connecting all the dots, show them the way from A to B, and then in the middle from A to B, those are the action steps. Those are the things that we need to do to get us from A to B. Once you've identified all of these things, shown them the way, made them be at that future point, seeing where they are, feeling it with emotion, then it's just all about how are we going to get there, because we're going to get there by an ongoing relationship with you, using technology, superior education, all the things that we package up. If you've done your job, and if you've gotten down to the point, you've identified all these emotional factors, you paved the way, painted the picture, done all these things, and the person's still kind of hesitant, you got to kind of hockey check them sometimes. What do you think is going to happen if you don't take this path and you continue down the same way that you've been doing for X amount of years? I mean, this isn't, you're just expecting something magical to happen. We're not magicians, we're advisors with superior technology. So what we want to make sure that they understand is, hey, some people create their own storms and they get upset when it rains. So if you're not going to take this path and you're not going to get to this endpoint, along the way, when you're not there, are you going to continually complain about it? Because if so, you can fix that right now. We can't fix the regrets of the past, but we can help fix potential regrets of the future. That's really all we had for this week, guys. I just wanted to go through some things that will hopefully help you understand that, yes, the education part, the products and services, explaining benefits and features, that's all important, but you're not going to create the type of sales cycle and the type of velocity in that sales cycle without understanding why people would take the next action step. And we're emotional creatures.